So for 10 years now, you've been really politically active and you've been engaging the community. You've been into town hall meetings. You've done a lot of outreach. And now I would argue you're in the most important political race of your career, that of the governor of the state of California. And California, by anyone's definition, I would say, is in a state of upheaval with skyrocketing homelessness, violence on the streets. I just saw an article in I think it was Oakland, just crazy violence going on. They're now organizing citizen groups that are patrolling the streets. We know that lockdowns from COVID has really just crushed businesses. People are fleeing the street, fleeing this state in high numbers, all while successful efforts underway to recall the current governor. So my number one question is, given all that, why are you running for governor?
Well, honestly, I don't look at it as a huge issue like other people. It's all about mindset and perspective. Oftentimes, when you say those laundry lists of things that are going on for a certain person, they may look at that and be like, oh, I wouldn't want to touch that. But for me, being an entrepreneur, small business owner, and a very creative, imaginative person, I look at it as an opportunity where other people see it as obstacles. I get excited about it because the opportunity is in the struggle, the opportunity is in the obstacle. And anytime anything is hard, excuse me, anytime when anything is hard in history, there are always individuals that stand up or stood up, right? And so why not me? Why not us? Why not this particular time and moment that we actually approach it from that perspective? And I think that's one of the main reasons why. But also, um, I think it's time for a different brand of leadership here in California. I also think it's time for a non-career politician, which is why I always say I would vote for an electrician over anybody because at least an electrician has the ability to work for completion, meaning that if they come to your house or to your job, they can't leave without what it actually the job being done. They don't get their check unless the job is done. And what we are witnessing in California and even across our entire state and country is that we're dealing with perennial runners, perennial candidates, and career politicians who are, ideally do not deal in completion. They deal in passing the buck to the next person and, saying that we're going to solve this complex issue the next time or the next cycle, whatever. And I'm basically the representation of enough is enough. So here's your alternative. If you want someone that's more relatable to you from your background, your upbringing, we share very similar stories, morals, and values. Here is your alternative, California. It's time for us to do better, and it is time for us to think major about the future of California.
No, I really like that, Major. I think you're spot on. I think there's a duopoly in terms of the Republicans and Democrats and two-party rule. And as I see the dynamics of the last 4 years, it feels like to me that people aren't so aligned with the party so much as the people
Yeah.
and the values that people represent. And I think the idea of you coming in as a non-politician is music to most of the voters' ears because I think they've seen the results of that. And I
Yeah.
think sort of the great awakening, people been awakened to what's going on really, how things are really managed. And as we just described the laundry list in California, the current leadership is not effective in addressing those issues. It's not for lack of money. Certainly, there's a lot of money there. But at a high level, when what do you see as the most pervasive problems in California? And how would you go about addressing them in a meaningful way? Because you're going to have to tackle these things. I love your statement on, what, if there's a problem, you run towards it and you deal with it. So as you look at California, what would you say is the most pervasive problems?
Well, one of the big things that we have to do in California is make California business friendly. Once you approach the economic side of things, there's a ripple effect, and so many other things change based upon those dynamics in regards to jobs, our economy, and just a boost to our economy in general. But the second biggest thing, which they actually kind of work side by side, is homelessness. We know under Governor Gavin Newsom's leadership, homelessness has went up over 16% over the last 2.5 years in itself, and it would never change or decrease until we start looking at homelessness like a business, like a service versus a business. What we're doing now is looking at homelessness like a business, and we keep flooding money and just thinking if you put money into it, things are going to change. But from my experience working in group homes and nonprofits for the last 20 years, when I first got out here, I understand how the I understand the mechanisms that are needed, necessary, and required. And those three mechanisms is mental health hospitals, drug and rehab facilities, these two do not work without the third component, which is wraparound services for transitioning into jobs, trades, opportunities, housing, etc. Because if you don't allow that last mechanism to exist, which it doesn't really now, it's going to be a perpetual cycle of those individuals, okay, getting clean, getting the help that they need, but they have no outlets, no opportunity, nowhere to go. And so once we do that and put a dent in our homeless situation, in our homeless crisis, should I call it, and getting people reacclimated back in society, only then will we see a shift in our state. You know, you can't even go to a park right now or walk down the sidewalk without tent encampments all over the place here in our state. And so it's definitely time for a different brand of leadership. And we have some really great things that we're going to bring up, bring on the table, like the Restore California plan, which is amazing. And it's not me saying I know it all or I'm the genius or whatever. It's saying that I'm a leader. I understand how leadership works. Leadership knows their weaknesses, but also identifies their strengths, and they empower using their position and leverage to bring the best and brightest together to solve some of these so-called complex issues. And that is the brand of leadership that I will offer all of California.